And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
Together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename too.
If you're going to read it like that.
We did.
Anyway, we're going to be your hosts for this episode and, of course, for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
It's been true for how many episodes?
Well, today is our 8th episode.
Not quite. Try again.
Today is our 80th episode.
So many episodes.
Yeah, shouldn't we be collecting like Social Security or something by this point?
It's 80 episodes, not 80 years worth of episodes.
Okay. Well, sometimes it feels like we've been doing this for a very long time.
Don't worry. You don't look a day over 60.
Oh, thanks, friend.
Here's to 80 more excellent, more mediocre. Wait, who wrote this? Introduction scripts.
Huzzah! As always, we are here to answer development and design questions about Idle Champions and not read introduction scripts, apparently.
I feel like you changed the whole thing after I saw it.
But not.
Anyway, if you don't ask any questions, however, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of paint drying.
Yes, critics are calling it boring and uninspired. And why did we pay money to see this?
Well, that sounds thrilling.
Well, it's no Hamilton, but I do what I can.
As always, we pulled some questions from the previous show that we did not get to, and we'll answer some of those while we're waiting for new questions to come in. Before we get to those, I have some updates. Actually, I don't have updates on that, but we'll get to that. Anyway, without any further stalling for time and whatever we just did, moving on from that very quickly, let's get on to items that are still in progress. So I did check with Peter before the show, and I did not have any new features or updates that have been completed and rolled out this week. So unfortunately, all I have for you is the in-progress list, and that includes prioritizing saving feats with formations, adding a random skin mode, adding the tooltip to gear that has a max level to indicate progress towards that max level, adding an option for mobile to quickly return to Area 1, adding icons to the quest tracker for the different types of season quests, adding recall for familiar, and adding an indication on the unread change logs. All right, and that is what we have for in-progress items. Moving on to leftover questions from the previous show. We'll start off with one here from Garwar, and Garwar asks, when will we get the two missing early Sword Coast variants off of Terror in the Dark and Unearthed Evil? They're still sitting at 2 variants, but they're some of the earliest adventures in the game.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this on the show before, but those 2 variants, I'm not entirely sure how they got missed, but there are 2 designed variants there that...
they're done and designed?
They're designed, they're not implemented, and somehow we just never put them onto the release schedule. So yeah, they need to be implemented and then rolled out. I think Chris was asking me about this the other day, so I think they're on the timeline for some time this year. I think we might have to go back and redesign one of them because they were designed like literally 6 years ago, without taking patrons or any of the modern champions or anything like that into account. And I think there's one of them was designed such that you'd run out of formation slots at like area 200 or something, and like with a patron you'd have to go like more than half of the variant without any slots available. So we might want to relook at some of those, but yeah, I think those are on the docket for later in the year.
I'm surprised that if they were designed early on that we haven't sort of already used up the variant changes for those in some new adventure.
I think the variant changes for them were very simple. Like back in the day, we weren't very
we had a lot of low-hanging fruit still, I think.
We weren't super creative with our variants, and so they were very simple designs.
I see.
Yeah. Next question here was from last week from Library of Akasha, and they asked, conversion system when for scrolls, I assume. I don't want to bother support every time I need to convert bounty contracts upwards, because opening a bunch of tiny or small bounty contracts is time consuming and tiresome.
Okay, so a couple of questions on that before we answer that. I hope you're not contacting support to upgrade bounty contracts. That doesn't feel like something that sort of the intent of support, even if they might be doing that for you. But yeah, I mean, we have that system all designed.
We have a design. I don't think I included scrolls in the
just potions
kind of alchemist design. It wouldn't be hard to throw them in there.
I assume like fundamentally they would function the same way.
It's a little bit different, I think, because kind of if we were upgrading scrolls, I think you'd probably expect to get kind of a straight up conversion rather than with the alchemist, since you're getting more power out of the higher level scrolls. You pay a little bit of a premium to upgrade them. So I don't know.
Right. I mean, as far as like the question, of course, which is conversion system when, I don't know that we have a set date for that yet, but a big chunk of that design is done and just waiting for development time to prioritize it. So certainly something that we're going to get done.
Someday.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's sooner than, say, your collection screen.
Oh, I don't know. That one's moving up the priority queue.
Next question. This question is from Emote, and they ask, when will the mystical trials changes be released?
Well, first we have to figure out what all of those trials changes are. But yeah, I have been getting quite excited about some of these trials changes that we started to look at a couple of weeks ago. And definitely no time very soon. We're talking kind of months away, not weeks away kind of thing. But yeah, there are some exciting changes to trials coming. We sort of touched on them in the previous.
I think you just teased them for the first time last week.
I think I just teased them. Yeah, I think we just kind of teased them. But the idea is, trying to find a way to make trials more engaging and less tedious for people. So there's some stuff in the works there, and I think folks are really going to like it once we get that out. Yeah,
as well as stuff that helps with the concerns that have been raised repeatedly around players who would join a trial and then not participate. So
we've got some non-contributor stuff in there to try to assuage that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Next question. This one is from Creatos Zero. Will new patrons? I'm gonna add a word. Will there be new patrons in the future?
So yeah, this is a good question, and one that the design team's been thinking about lately, or rather, since the beginning of the year, I think, because generally we've released about one patron a year since we started, and I don't think did we do one. I don't remember if we did one at the end, in the beginning of last year, or kind of the end of the year before. But yeah, one of the kind of things that we're struggling with is adding a fifth patron super necessary? It does add basically a whole new set of variants to do. And is that something that is interesting and compelling, or is that just too much kind of the same thing? So yeah, it's something we're definitely thinking about. We're also thinking about what kind of impact that would have on the weekly patron chests or chores or quests, challenges. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, so we're not sure is the honest answer. It's something that we're investigating. We do have some fun ideas for what kind of patron restrictions we could put on to a new patron, but at this point, we don't have a firm answer on whether or not we're going to do that and when we're going to do it. Let's move on to questions from the new questions list. So these are questions from this episode, which people asked from the point at which this episode started until now, or until the episode. I don't know why I'm delaying. We've got lots of questions. Anyway, the first one here is from Jason M. Bryant 1, who says, the new Forge is great. One issue is the show legendary levels box. When you click it and then click on an item, then hit the back button, the box is unchecked again. Can't it remember if it was checked?
Oh, shoot. I thought it was remembering that. I can bring that up with...
I thought we talked about this too.
We did, because it was, when you closed the dialogue, it was losing that. I mean, this is slightly different sort of behavior, but I thought it was that, and I had that on my list of things that was corrected last week. So I'll tag it and ask Nick about it. But yeah, no, it was specifically adjusted so that it would remember and stay active throughout a session, but going in and then coming out. Well, I'll get him to check, but it's supposed to be fixed. Next question. This question is from Seawolf177. Can we get an in-game alert for when we're able to join/create a new trial?
Yeah, I think that's something that we can try to implement within the new system. One of the challenges with that is the question of, do we have the alert kind of pop up every time you load the game after a trial is available, or you could join or create a new trial, or do we just have it do it once? Because you could potentially, if we just had it happen once, you could potentially miss it when it happens, and then you close the game or reload, or maybe you open it on a different computer or something, and you just missed that first time. We would need to we'd probably want to have it be a little tooltip or something that was coming down from the trials icon, so that you would know that it was there. So,
okay.
Yeah, we'd probably include that in the rework.
Next question. This is from Wefon. Any plans to have a system to convert/revert legendary potions back into scales?
No plans at this time, but it's not a bad thing to think about in terms of something that we could potentially do. It's just for folks who are unaware of why this would be good. My guess of why this would be good is because we changed sort of the costs for legendary potions, or for legendary crafting. That the potions, you can craft quite a few more pieces of legendary equipment, and it's kind of reduced the value of the potions, especially the kind of lower level ones. So being able to get those scales back and use them on something else is probably something that folks would be into. If we were going to do that kind of thing, they would likely only revert back to the current cost for the legendary, for that kind of for just the level ups plus maybe the minimum cost. We wouldn't be able to really know what legendary you got that item from and how much you had spent on that legendary in order to give you back kind of a more accurate amount. So it would have to be something that was an approximation. But I guess anything would be better than nothing.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Randrem, and they ask, while we don't need action right away or even soon, could we at least get a ruling on whether it's leaning towards a 9 jump, feat, or hard cap, so a decision regarding saving for 11 jump or not can be made, rather than living in limbo?
Yeah, so I'm just guessing, because I'm looking at the list of questions here, and not this exact same question, but basically the same questions from Nisclicks, Emote, Gari, Fewer Pills, Rough Rider 1990. Lots of you want to know this. And they're definitely, we don't have sort of the action on this coming right away, but I'm leaning towards a hard cap. I think that saving up for 11 jump is it feels like it's just not good gameplay to really encourage folks to be saving that many bounty or blacksmithing contracts and throwing them all onto one piece of gear. So leaning towards a hard cap on that, in which case, until that comes, I guess feel free to try and go for 11 jump. Once the hard cap is implemented, you would get those bounty contract or blacksmithing contracts back anyway. So that is what I'm leaning towards. Caveat, of course, being that this is Dev Insights. Stuff we talk about on here isn't definitive. Just because we're two of the developers doesn't mean that we have the final say. Well, I mean, we kind of do have the final say, but it doesn't mean
you might not change your mind.
It doesn't mean that people aren't going to change my mind.
Someone could make a very compelling argument, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, 11.
Yeah. So right now we're leaning towards that. Let's see. Next question. This one's from a Library of Akasha, who asks, "Can you make it so we can buy feats from the gem shop like skins? Gem shop makes it super obvious if you're missing a gem buyable skin."
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I guess right now the only availability on those is like actually on the champions.
Yeah, and it was done for a specific purpose, and that being if a
Yeah.
new player loads up the gem shop and doesn't have any of those gem buyable feats, there would be literally hundreds of feats in there, which
Yeah.
could be a little bit overwhelming for newer players.
I do remember that consideration on this when we were setting some of that gem stuff up in the shop. I mean, the alternative, of course, is that we show the feats for heroes or for champions that you have in the gem shop.
Or have it be like an option of some sort, like a tick box.
Show me all the feats.
Show me more. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can see sort of what it's kind of getting at, and I see some further questions that are similar. The idea that that's great when you have early on when you don't have very many feats, but if you're actually looking to see if there's any that you're missing, that becomes a lot more difficult. So, yeah, I think that's worth thinking about a better solution to that. I will tag it, and some thinking will occur.
Excellent. I like thinking.
Next question is also from Library of Akasha. Could you please add corrupted gems to the recent Vecna variants? I was very disappointed that there weren't any corrupted gems in the variant update yesterday.
Yeah, so it's a fair question. Our plan is not to add corrupted gems to every variant. We did them for the Red Wizards ones because those ones were, well, some of those at least were themed around Red Wizards and were for the D&D movie release, which if you haven't gone to see it yet is a fun time. You should go see that movie. Wizards pays me $0 to say that, so that's my honest opinion. But yeah, I wouldn't expect there to be a lot of variants with corrupted gems in them. It was something we kind of did for the first time around, and we may or may not repeat that in future emergences. I know the next emergence in May will not, as far as I know, have any new variants that have corrupted gems in them. So yeah, it's not something that we're planning on doing on a regular basis.
Okay, let's see. There's actually a sort of an interesting question. This one is from Foolish Genius 89. And the question is there a, quote, in case of edition change, break glass somewhere in the C&E office? What happens in the future? Features or races used in Idle Champions stop existing in Dungeons & Dragons?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't think we've ever actually like explicitly talked about that. But my guess would be we would just continue to use the 5e ones that existed. I don't think we would make any major changes. I know that kind of with D&D 1, like the next edition of 5e, they are making some kind of changes to how they talk about race in the books. And so, there might be some stuff that is, not exactly how it's described in the current edition of D&D at some point. In the nearish future, but I don't think it's something where we would go out of our way to make big changes in the game unless it was requested on us from on high.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that sort of we straddle an odd case because you think about, earlier games that were done with an edition version of D&D. Obviously, it doesn't make sense for them to go back and change it. But for us, who've got a large, section of content that was created with an earlier edition and then a new edition comes out, does it make sense at that point? Do we start actually switching things to that? And then I guess the other part of that is we kind of exist in a bit of a gray area on some of it anyway, because it's not like we follow like the typical rule systems. I don't think things go much higher than what is the max level 20? Is that in the
20? Yeah, generally, yeah.
So we're sort of in a fuzzy rules section anyway. But I think it would, if it was going to result in sort of sweeping changes across the game, it wouldn't be something that we would adopt unless, A, it was sort of required of us, or B, there was something we could really, interesting that we could do with it. And so it'd probably be one of those things where if edition changes, we might introduce or use features that are in the new version sort of in upcoming stuff if we thought that made sense. But we wouldn't go back and sort of retroactively pull things out or change existing characters, unless there was like a really compelling reason to do so, just because the backlog is huge at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because like there haven't been that many like D&D live service games. Like there's D&D Online and there's Neverwinter, and I think D&D Online still uses like second edition rules.
No,
doesn't it?
Honestly, I don't know, but I would guess more like 3 or 3.5.
Maybe 3.
It shows that we've really played it.
D&D on.
No, from a timeline standpoint, it has to be 3. It has to be 3.
Online. Yeah.
3.5 is what the chat's saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
2 is a long time ago, Justin.
Certainly, that's a live service. Yeah. Right. It's like, no, there weren't very many games.
It's like Eric's time.
Right. So certainly, I mean, that's a live service game, and obviously when 4 came out and when 5 came out, they didn't rework any of their systems, or well, I'm not aware of them having done that at least. And certainly, I think Neverwinter, is it? Neverwinter must have been running off of like a similar to 4.
We don't talk about 4. Yeah.
They only play D&D 4 in Quebec. Anyway. Let's see. So yes, I guess the answer to that is what you said. We wouldn't really make any changes unless it was requested of us.
But we certainly might introduce new features from it if they made interesting sense in the game. So
for sure, yeah.
Okay, next question. This one is from Garwar. Garwar would like to know, what is the purpose of the Week X indicator at the top of all of the patron challenge pages?
I don't know.
Is it just counting up indefinitely? Is that what's going on there?
It might just be counting up from like kind of the first week that we released patron challenges.
Yeah,
but it's always
week 2.
Week 2.
No, it resets. What? You know, the funny thing
sounds to me. So the very first time we did challenges in the game was for
the C team stuff, right?
C-team, I think C team promotion.
Yeah.
That we were doing with the Penny Arcade guys, and we had challenges, and the way that we ended up implementing them was kind of funky, where the current week was always week 2, the previous week, because you could still do the previous week's challenges and the current week challenges.
Well, it had weeks, kind of, right? Like it counted through. The whole event had what? Wasn't it like a 10-week event?
Yeah, but you couldn't do the really earlier ones. You had to. There was like a time limit on them, basically, of like I guess it was 14 days from the first time you got them. And so I think that code probably somehow just made its way in. There's a funny comic I saw the other day, which I shared in the company thing, where it was like when a scientist like discovers something, they discover it and they're like, this is amazing, we have to figure out why it works. And then there's developers, and when developers like get something to work, they're like, this is great, don't touch it, it works. We don't have to know why it works or how it works. It just works, so leave it alone. And I think there's a case of that going on in here. With that said, whatever that indicator is probably doesn't need to be there. So that sounds like some UI we could free up.
Yeah, no, I'm fairly confident that one, which was part of the C team stuff, was something that I had originally written, and then we gave it to another developer to do the patron challenges, and we told them, hey, all of the stuff, tech for this is already written, just go grab it from there. And they did, and didn't change that particular piece. So
we can highlight that one.
Yeah, we can make that go away.
It's probably very easily to get away.
Low-hanging fruit. Next week's episode, I can be like, we fixed this. It's game-changing.
Don't promise too much.
All right. Next question. This one is from the Library of Akasha. So any plans with excess Modron XP? I'd really like to convert it into Modron components. I know chess will never happen, but components is a maybe?
Yeah, we've talked about excess Modron XP before, and sort of the idea of allowing Modron cores to kind of over-level and have some sort of reward for that. So I'm not really sure what direction we're going to go in on that, but it is something that has popped up on Design's plate before, and could very well pop up as something we could look at again in the future. But definitely, I think once you get all of your cores up to max level, there's no real incentive to use champions like Nordum or to try and grind out Modron XP. So I think it's definitely something that we could take a look at.
Okay.
This is a good question for you, Dave, because you
Oh
have
no.
a photographic memory.
What now?
So from Nine Nebel, who asks, how many episodes haven't happened because the hosts haven't been there? We
This
should
feels
actually
like
be able
math
to
we could
figure.
actually do, right?
We should be able to figure this out because we
'Cause-
know when the first episode aired. Well, we can know when the first episode aired, and then we just have to do a little subtraction thing.
Yeah, I'm
But actually,
guessing
don't we
it's
have-
probably in the range of about, I want to say maybe 12 or 13.
It's been. I mean, there've been some when like we've just been on holidays, right? And then there've been some when one or two of us have been. Generally, I don't think we've both been sick on the same Thursday, but
That probably happened maybe once, and then you had a little bit of time off for obvious reasons.
yes, I did. I did have one of them.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm trying to scroll down to the bot to page 390 of our old questions doc here.
maybe we can have this answer for next week, because I'm sure there's a lot of questions
actually,
we could go through that players are more interested in knowing.
Our first episode was on May 6th, 2021, which is almost exactly 2 years ago. So that means there have been 104 episodes, so 24 is the answer.
All right, well, we better check that, because I think that's probably a little on the high side, but
There's 52 weeks in a year. It's been exactly 2 years minus 1 week. So that's 101.
But the question was,
23.
haven't happened because the hosts haven't been there, not because of other reasons that may have caused things to be missed.
The only reason we don't do episodes is because
There's been some other ones.
all right.
Anyway, let's move on to questions that are more interesting more interest to the audience, I'm sure. This one is from T5 Cats, and they would like to know if there's going to be a giveaway. I see a giveaway. Maybe we should do that, Justin.
Just like I have to scroll back up to the current questions. All right, yeah. So what's going on? There's a giveaway. This is very exciting. If you haven't been with us before, which I think most of you have at this point, but if you haven't been here before, every week we do a giveaway of 42 chests of your choice. Yes, 42 is 24 in reverse, which is the number of episodes we have missed because the hosts haven't been here. And the way it works is very, very shortly there will be a keyword printed in chat that all you have to do is type that keyword in and press send, and you will be entered for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice. The chests can be any type of chest that exists in the game, except for Glory of Bahamut chests, because those are going to go away. And it has to be a type of chest that actually exists and is available. So it cannot be Dave's Clairvoyant admin chests, because those are not available to regular players. They're only available to admins. Sorry. And yeah, that's going on right now. So find that keyword, type it into chat, and you will be entered in for a chance to win. Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, and we can endeavor to get that number for next week. An accurate number, Justin.
It is an accurate number.
Sure.
Anyway, let's move on to the next question.
Cool. Okay, the next question. This one is from T5 Cats. And the question is, if one has, it says they prefaced it with, it's probably common knowledge, but not for me. And just I'd say, if you're asking anyone who's in the chat who wants to ask questions, even if they are sort of beginner questions, that's awesome. Ask away. Don't worry if other players might think it's common knowledge, because there's definitely other people out there who will need the answers just like you do. So
we love beginner questions.
Without further ado, the question is, if one has full shiny on our evergreens, will we continue to get shiny items from chests? What do we got here? We do, and they just add lots of levels, but could they be given as shiny potions?
Yeah, so I believe the answer here is that they do. You do just get a whole bunch of levels if you get a duplicate shiny. I don't think we would give out shiny potions. That seems like that would be a little bit OP. Yeah, and Mars is typing here. It's plus 125 item levels when you get a duplicate shiny. So it's a pretty big boost. If you have a level 1 item and you go up to level 126, that's going to increase the power of that item by roughly 50%. Obviously, that falls off as you get more and more levels on your items.
Right. And shiny items are pretty uncommon in chests, I think is the...
Yeah, I think they're around 1 in 1,000 items.
Yeah, for sure. That's a lucky one if you're getting shinies from chests.
It happens, for sure.
Okay, next question. I highlighted this. I thought this was a fun question. This one is from Dizor, asking, have you ever thought about changing the name of the game? With seasons, plus events, plus free time gates, plus 4 patrons, plus 4 parties, plus 4 Modron cores, plus lots of free chests, it feels more like a full-time job than an idle game.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 answers to this. One, you forgot about Trials of Mount Tiamat. Don't forget about Trials of Mount Tiamat. And 2, honestly, yes. I think I've mentioned this on this stream before. I think if I had my druthers and I could go back in time and change the name of the game, I would change it to just Champions of the Forgotten Realms rather than Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, because yeah, absolutely, it has grown into something that has so much content in it and so much to do and so much, of that kind of one more turn stuff that you can do in it, that definitely there's a lot of active play in this game at this point. And yeah. Right.
You sure you didn't want to go with full-time Champions of the Forgotten Realms?
I think that's a little full-time job Champions of the Forgotten Realms.
No, not job, just full-time. I'll pull out the job where it flows better as full-time Champions of the Forgotten Realms.
It's a little on the nose.
Part-time Champions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a completely fair criticism.
But there are rules, and we just can't change the name of the game.
That's true.
Okay, I guess the next question.
Oh my god, yeah, I've been scrolling down through questions from 2 years ago, so I've forgot to highlight stuff.
Okay, next question. This one is from Honda Hero 21, and they would like to know what's up with Freely's Adventurous Tale. I use him lots on my Ashara team for deep favor pushes. I go back and look, and his areas credited are less than... Justin's covering up the text.
Sorry.
Less than where I am. Does Adventurous Tale not work in the background, or is it bugged?
I'm going to go ahead and guess that Adventurous Tale does not work in background. Peter and I were actually talking about this earlier today, and sort of a way that you can think about that is actually maybe worthwhile to think about how background progress works or how offline progress works is think about it as functioning with a super briv who skips areas based off of how good you were doing. So I think Peter was saying that potentially if you do really, really well in an area, that you can skip up to 40 areas at a time in background progress or in offline mode. And that means that all of that stuff that would have happened in those 40 areas you skipped just doesn't get recorded. So yeah, things like Adventure's Tale probably doesn't work quite right in offline progress. Other things that kind of count up active things that you would do in an area probably don't count very well. We were talking about putting in kind of a generic system, at least for season quests, so that they would work a little bit better, or at least have an approximate value that counted in offline and background progress. For things like for this season, like for spurts, Waspiration. For the equivalent type of quests, if we do them in future seasons, we try and find a way to have those at least give you some sort of progress in offline progress and background mode. So yeah, it's something we're working on. It's going to be something where kind of every time we want to improve a specific ability so that it works in background mode and offline progress, that it requires some custom code. So we're going to be, it's probably going to be slow going to get all of them set up and working properly. But yeah, that's likely what's happening there.
Okay. Next question. Although in this case it was the previous question. This one is from a weapon. Can you look into trial vial rewards? I'm doing tier 10 trials and have a lot of dud boxes, whether 5 or 6 chests. I've gotten 8 vials and 5 chests, 11 vials and 5 chests, 8 vials and 6 chests, even a 6 vial 6 chest. There seem to be more low rolls than high rolls, and I'm running a deficit of vials at the moment.
Yeah, that sounds like you've been getting pretty unlucky, which is just the inverse of someone who's been getting really lucky and getting like epic vials in every chest. They're both kind of equally likely to happen, and unfortunately, there is no sort of pity timer on the vials chests there. I did mention earlier that in the sort of new version of trials that we are looking at, we are planning on getting rid of the chests and also vials. So if you can hold on, if you can scrounge together enough vials to get into your trials up until we get those changes out, then you should be in a pretty decent place. But in the meantime, yeah, there's definitely some randomness there, and if you get on the unlucky side of that, unfortunately, it'd feel bad.
Yeah, there could be some significant changes coming for that. So, sort of questions around that may just sort of be pushed into the feature will be changing rather than additional development time going into updating trials at this point.
Yeah.
So bear that in mind.
Changes. Yeah, working on those changes as fast as we can.
Okay, next question is from Foolish Genius 89. And they would like to know, does Spurt make other champs count as kobolds for other champs' abilities like Lazaps? If not, why can't it work like that?
Yeah, I was just going to look this up. To see what the specific description says. Because I am not sure. There's a couple of different ways that we can do these things, and one is it just changes them for the purpose of a specific ability, and the other is it adds a tag to them. And I think that, yeah, I think it's only for the purpose of pack tactics that the adopted family specialization would do. So it wouldn't make champions count as kobolds for any other abilities. It would just be for Spurt's ability. Let's see, next question here is from Loopy79, who asks, can we get an icon, possibly a little green plus symbol in the lower right corner of champ portraits, to indicate when a champ has feats available for purchase? Currently, there's no convenient way to know when new feats have been added to the game, so something like this would be appreciated. I think we saw this question before.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of in line with the questions being asked earlier about the gem shop feats. Because the question was, hey, how do I know if there's any feats available for this champion? So it's kind of an interesting idea. I can see that this is sort of, again, if it's a follow-up of the idea asked earlier, if like, is there a way that we know that there are feats we could buy for this champion? Yeah, I mean, I think I'll add that to the thinking that's required with the other option, because I think if we could do some way of actually showing them in the shop by champion, that might actually make this sort of problem go away and not need necessarily an icon on the actual champion, because it definitely seems like the issue here is wanting to make sure that you have all of the feats available purchased for a champion without having to go into each individual one and check. So tag that as something that's being requested.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next question, and I tagged this, Justin. I remember we've answered this a few times, and I don't remember the exact answer here, but I know you do, or I hope you do. This is from Fewer Pills, and they're asking, could the Modron reset cap please be changed to area 2000 instead of 1000? It's already working if you fiddle with the files, as some people noted in the past. So it should be an effort less than 5 minutes to finally change a 1 into a 2.
Yeah, I thought we had changed it to like 1500 or something like that.
I also thought it was 1499 or something.
Yeah. And maybe it's different on like console. Was that the issue?
Oh, someone's saying technically 1499 to 2000.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I think right now there's I don't know. I mean there's it's a weird situation where like the formations are that are sort of autoing up to 2000, like they're doing it generally through like I'm assuming like click damage only, not necessarily because their champions are actually doing enough damage to get that far, though maybe that has changed with the legendary stuff, or with Artemis. Sure, yeah, with lots and lots of gear. So it's just it feels like something that is so niche, that I'm just hesitant to do something that really only benefits a very small number of players. But I can't think of a reason not to, really. I feel like we need to set some variant requirements a little bit higher.
Well, I'll take it.
Maybe we need to do that 5th patron, and have the variant requirements for it be like 800 higher than the base ones.
All right. Next question. This one is from Loopy79, asking for the legendary gear that grants DPS bonus for all champions based on the number of champions with a neutral alignment. The description is vague. Does this count for only true neutral champions, neutral champs on the good-evil axis, neutral on the lawful chaotic axis, or neutral on at least one of the two axes? Whatever the answer is, can the wording on the legendary ability be adjusted to make the answer more obvious instead of needing to ask the developers about it?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I am looking at that now, and I believe the answer is it will count on both, because I don't see anything here that that would point to anything else. I know we initially had this kind of issue in the Trials Mount Team. Like one of the restrictions was set to neutral champions, and we changed that to be specific about basically neutral on good or evil, or neutral on lawful and chaotic. I don't think we've made that change to legendaries. So at this point, as far as I know, a neutral, like a neutral good, or a lawful neutral would both count as neutral, even though those neutrals are on different axes.
Okay. Next question. This is from Foolish Genius 89. And they're asking, during future emergence events, should we anticipate more variants that drop corrupted gems? Factoring them into totals we need, or were they a 2-time occurrence?
Yeah, so the answer to this, I touched on this earlier in the show in an answer to another question, but the plan for the second emergence, at least, is that there will not be variants. But we are tweaking the number that you get from drops and from the daily quests to kind of make up for that. So we every time we kind of do an emergence, we're kind of looking at the amount of stuff we're putting into the shop, and we're looking at the amount of gems that we're making available, and we're trying to balance those two so that there's there's enough stuff there for players to get, but also a little bit of extra stuff there for people who want to support the game to grab as well. So yeah. Let's see. Next question here is from Emote. And the question is, when opening vast amounts of bounty contracts, like e to the 6 to e to the 7 tokens worth, it will get to a point where the game completely refuses to save anymore, and then it will roll back when the game reloads, sometimes having consumed the contracts, sometimes not. Do you know what the cause of this is? Or do you know what's the cause of this? I'm guessing it's simply save data size. Is there anything you could do to stop that from being a problem?
Yeah, so I highlighted this because I wanted to mention that this had come up. I believe Sean shared this in one of the channels just a couple of days ago, and I was trying to find the conversation that occurred there. Maybe it was Taylor I think it was Taylor that shared it. if I could find it, I know for sure. But I know sort of Mark chimed in on that because he'd been working on sort of changes to the save system recently, and we were trying to figure out if that was something that was related to the recent saves. I don't remember that there was anything definitive came from the discussion. I know that it was brought up and that we were looking at it. I'm not sure. When opening vast amounts of bounty contracts. So I guess that's all at once. I don't know that it's a save size, like a save data size issue. The saves do get quite large. We actually, when we wrap them up to send them to the server, they do actually end up getting compressed just because of the large size of the data for stats and other things that it actually had gotten to a point where we were concerned about how much data was being sent there and how long it was taking depending on the save. But in this particular case, I mean, what am I trying to say? I guess that there isn't really a limit on that. The save could get quite large, could get much larger than we would hope it to be, and it still would go through because there's not actually a limit on the amount of size that a save can be. So I'm not sure exactly why that would be. I mean, it'll be something that we'll continue to look at, but I'm not. Yeah, and I think we'd have to find it some specific time for someone to pull and attempt to do enormous amounts of bounty contract usage. But yeah, I wanted to comment on that because I know we did take a look at it and we were discussing it, but we don't have a definitive answer at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird one.
So I'm looking at the chat emote saying, I was told bounty cards added littering one at a time to the save.
Does not sound like how saves work.
I mean, the issue is that it like as far as I understand how the actual save data gets sent, the size could be megabytes and megabytes of data, and it would still go through. It would just take a little bit longer. So I don't think that's it. It sounds like something else is sort of failing out, but yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Next question is from a Weapon who says, since the week-long potion timer is fixed, can you also fix/change regular potions from eating a lot, if not all the time when an offline calculation takes place? Can you have them not eat time or only 5 minutes worth?
So that's I'm a little concerned about that question because I'm not sure that, like, have we been seeing that? Is that something that's been on our radar, Justin, recently in terms of potions getting used up when they're not supposed to be used up?
This is the first I've heard of that, but it could have been getting drowned out before by the week-long potion timer issues.
Yeah, so I wasn't aware that the potions were getting a lot, if not, a big chunk of the time getting eaten up by offline. I mean, if you have examples where that's happening, I mean, it would be best to, just to open up a ticket when that does happen. Yeah, I know every now and then this sort of thing's been mentioned, but nothing to this extent, at least, and nothing recently. So I'll tag it, but like I say, if you have that happen, right after you have it happen, I mean, open up a ticket and we can pass that information along and someone can dig into it and see what actually happened. Yeah, because it's not supposed to be eating your potion time for sure. Okay. Next question. This one is from Randram, asking, are larger volumes of different people requesting similar things helpful to draw attention to it? No real reason, asking for a friend, clearly.
So yeah, I mean, I think the answer to this is yes. There definitely is some triage that happens with issues and with things that we focus our time on. Obviously, we don't have enough development time and design time to do absolutely everything we would like to do as fast as we could possibly do it. So there's definitely some triage that happens, and if more people are reporting something, then it gets more of our attention as well. With that said, I mean, there is also, there's always going to be some sort of our own internal analysis on that, sort of based off of kind of who's asking about it, what kind of players are asking about it, and sort of how quickly those requests are coming in. So, for example, we're always watching the the emails and stuff that come in. And last night there was a change to a Steam client that caused the game to not load, and we were very quickly able to respond to that and put out a fix on our side that somehow got around the new Steam client issues. But if something comes in, every once in a while we'll get someone who says their game doesn't load, and if we get one of those every couple of days, it probably doesn't get us to sit up quite as quickly as if we get 6 or 7 in 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, I'm just looking at the chat here. I was seeing sort of the question here, not the follow-up from the previous question posted by Donut Mind Me, saying, don't need a script, put Brivalone in an area, close the game, restart the game a minute later, potion's gone. If you can get that, if you have that happen, just like you can literally just do that and it works, or not works, but breaks, it inappropriately uses the potion. Can you provide those instructions in a ticket and pass that along to Taylor, and he can send that to myself? I'll get it to Mark to take a look at, because that definitely shouldn't be happening. And if you got reproducible steps, that means we can fix it 100%.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see, 2:55. We got time for 1 or 2 more questions.
I know exactly which 2.
The next question here is from Father Wind. And Father Wind would like to know, what is the next major mechanic you'll be adding?
For example,
I was going to let you just go.
So this is a really good question. It is something that we've been thinking about. It's actually one of the impetuses for our Trials Mount Tiamat changes. And this kind of relates back to another question we got earlier about thinking about changing the name of the game to remove the word idle. And so one of the things we've kind of been struggling with when thinking about what our next major feature is going to be is how do we add it to the game in such a way that it doesn't just add yet another thing you need to do. So one of the ways that we can add things to the game without necessarily adding more work is to take a feature that is less popular or didn't sort of land as well as we wanted it to, and rework that. So I would say the next major mechanic that is coming to the game is the Trials Mount Tiamat. Even though that came to the game 2 years ago, it is the next major feature that will come to the game. And hopefully I'll be able to talk more about the specifics of what we're changing in there in the nearish future.
I think actually chat would like a fishing game, Justin. I think we just put that one on hold and go right for the fishing game.
Fishing minigame. All right. And I was thinking the last question we may want to answer is just the Briv 9 jump one again, because I noticed that there were 2 or 3 more people who asked about that throughout the episode. So maybe for anyone who wasn't around at the beginning of the episode, there have been lots of questions today about the capping Briv at 9 jumps or doing a 9 jump feat so that people can continue to build for an 11 jump. And the answer I gave earlier that continues to be the answer that I'm thinking is that we would probably just cap at 9 jumps, cap the epic equipment at whatever is required for 9 jumps, so that once you get that high, you would no longer be able to get any item levels on that piece of equipment, and that would effectively cap how many jumps you can get out of Briv. I did caveat that at the time, and I continue to caveat that with, if somebody makes a compelling argument to do it in a different way, then that is certainly a thing that I could be convinced of. So, yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
All right.
With that said, I think we're out of time.
If we didn't get to your question this week, and there are lots of questions we didn't get to this week, if we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry, you will have another opportunity. We'll be live again at this same time next week, I'm pretty sure at least, unless it is the 25th time that we do not do the show because one of us is not available. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was Mars and Gabe. They're the 2 folks who copy your questions into our questions doc and help make chat awesome. So thanks to both of you.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game. Because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
We like what we do.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
All right, Justin. What do you call a sleeping dinosaur?
I don't know what.
A dino snore. Ooh, look at another one. What did the football coach say to the broken vending machine?
I don't know what.
Give me my quarterback. Oh, and one more.
No.
What do you call a sad cup of coffee?
I don't know what.
Depresso.
Let's turn it off.